What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. Make sure you guys hit that like button. Also subscribe to the channel. Today is Monday, which means Monday Mail Day. I pick questions from you guys, the viewers. Try my best to answer it. I put a thumb up next to the questions that I will be answering. Gennady Golovkin, and no, not for future, versus Danny Jacobs. The Miracle Man was just announced yesterday. A lot of questions pertaining to that and some other ones. So without further ado, let's get it in and let me do my best to answer these questions. First question comes from John Cotty. Hey Ego, do you like the fact that there's 3 WBA belts in one division? And do you think too many belts in too many divisions kills boxing? No, I do not like it. Reason being is you've seen the dilemma in the Triple G Jacobs initial negotiations. You have a guy who's the super champion, and then this guy, Danny Jacobs, who's the regular champion. Then they're arguing at the purse split. You know what I mean? It was a big fight for boxing, and 75-25, I don't know. I just don't like it. It's just, it would be easier. Like, let's say Triple G was the super and only champion. Then Danny Jacobs would have less of a case. But it's so many token belts and stuff in boxing. It's like you got 2 people living as champions, even though, okay, Golovkin is recognized as the real or the truest or the highest level of WBA champions. You still got another guy who is a champion, and you have to call him a champion, and he has title defenses just the same. It just so happens that his hardware, his belt, is not as meaningful. You know what I mean? It's like diamonds and cubic zirconia. You know what I mean? It's just, it adds too much confusion. But the reason they do it is politics. They get money for sanctioning fees and stuff like that. So I'm not a fan of the alphabet belts. It would be so much easier to just say Golovkin. Like, okay, let's say Jacobs and Golovkin didn't fight. The fight wasn't scheduled, even though it is scheduled March 18th, 2017. Right? Let's say they couldn't agree. Then, hypothetically, if Jacobs didn't get stripped or Golovkin or whatever, then you still have another belt floating around. So it takes longer to consolidate, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Like, if there were only one WBA belt, then he could just move on to Billy Joe Saunders. And then he'd be like, hey, I have all the belts, I unified. But now it's like an extra step. So I don't like that. 2 champions. That's like if you went to, imagine if you went to a store, let's say Home Depot, and you're like, I want to talk to the store manager. And then 2 people came out of the office like, I'm the store manager. No, hey, I'm the store manager. I'm store manager A and I'm store manager B. I'm the super store manager. I'm the regular store. Like, fuck that. You know what I'm saying? Who the fuck are you? I would be pissed if 2 store, like, you're assistant store manager? No, I'm the regular store manager. He's the super store manager. Like, I don't have time for this. Just give my fucking money back. So I don't like it. Only in boxing. You know what I'm saying? You don't have like regular NBA championship team and then the super NBA champions. You know what I'm saying? I'm from the old school, Highlander. There can be only one. Next question, JB. Would you say that Danny Jacob has a shaky chin, or is it leaky D? Or maybe pause. Or maybe a little of both. It's honestly, I think that whole fact is overstated. If you guys know boxing, Demetrius Perog was someone that was linked to fight Golovkin when he started fighting in America, fighting Proska. Demetrius Perog, I remember they even had on HBO where they do the picture snapshot of the whole division. That was the match that was being talked about because it's a good fight. So the whole shaky chin, I don't really know if he has a shaky chin like that because he lost to a quality guy with power. So anything, that's like saying Peter Quillen has a shaky chin. I mean, because he got knocked out by a guy with a high knockout ratio. I don't know. I don't think that always equates. Now, some people would say, oh, but Sergio Mora, the Latin snake, knocked him down. Yeah, but you've seen what happened. Sergio Mora got knocked down multiple times in the fights and got stopped in both fights. And Sergio Mora, he's a 154 pounder that moved up, kind of sneaky. And to me, realistically, what happened is Jacobs got overzealous and he got careless and he got caught. I don't think he was on Queer Street. I think he got caught more so off balance. I don't remember. I've seen the first fight. I don't really remember Jacobs like drunk in there, like, oh fuck, and then like spilling over and stuff like that. It wasn't all that. He got reckless, abandoned defense totally, and he got clipped and he got sat down. I mean, that can happen in boxing. You get hit in the right spot and you're gonna go down, you know what I mean? If you're off balance, you don't have the right footing, feet aren't planted, different things like that. So I don't know. I wouldn't say his defense is shaky or his chin. Maybe he does have a shaky chin. I don't know. It's hard for me to gauge off of him losing to a guy who was a good fighter before he got injured. So I think it's overstated. People are acting like you just touch him and he's done for. Like, I'm not even trying to throw shade, but Amir Khan, to me, his chin, the reason people say he has a shaky chin is because he's been hurt by various punchers, various level of opposition. There's a guy, I forgot his name in the UK, I think it's Willie Lyman or something like that. That guy had him buckled and dancing. Bradis Prescott, a big puncher, hurt him. Danny Garcia, a bigger puncher, hurt him. But he also got hurt. Well, Canelo obviously hurt him. But he's also been hurt by like guys like Julio Diaz. That's not, to me, that Julio Diaz fight was at a catch weight. Julio Diaz is a blown up lightweight. And you look at it, okay, you could say he had a draw with Sean Porter when Sean Porter was first coming up. And then Sean Porter set the record straight in the rematch. Keith Thurman blew through Julio Diaz. Kendall Holt brutally knocked him out, right? He was more so, I guess you could say, a faded, blown up lightweight, and he dropped Amir Khan. You know what I'm saying? Maidana hurt Amir Khan. So it's like, at that level, okay, I get it. Maidana, Garcia, Bradis, they're all punchers. Canelo, they're all punchers, but I've seen him buckled before by other people. Like, why would you get dropped by Julio Diaz? You know what I'm saying? Nobody else seems to be getting dropped by him that was like a true welterweight. It just is. Can you put it this way? Can you picture Canelo? Can you picture Floyd Mayweather, Pacquiao getting dropped by Julio Diaz? And Pacquiao's not even a big welterweight. Neither is Mayweather. They're not huge welterweights. But can you picture either of them getting dropped? Let's say he caught him with the flush shot. Do you think they'd get dropped? When Shane Mosley didn't even drop. Shane Mosley off the Margarito win didn't even get dropped, or didn't even drop Floyd. He hurt him clearly, but he didn't drop him. You know what I mean? We've seen Pacquiao take flush shots from Eric Morales and different people, and he didn't get dropped. So do you really think Julio Diaz would do it? So I think the Danny Jacobs thing, it's too premature for me to say his chin is just shit. Even if Golovkin stops him, Golovkin stopped 23 people in a row. So I still wouldn't even say that's a shaky chin. I mean, that's what Golovkin's known for, stopping people. Next question is from Candor. If the Danny Jacobs Triple G fight goes 12 rounds and Triple G wins, is it more so a detriment to Golovkin's career or an accomplishment for Jacobs? Maybe a little bit of both. Obviously, even if you lose, being the spoiler, so to speak, like Malik Scott versus King Kong Ortiz. He lost the fight, clearly, but he actually had a little bit of a moral victory because he went the distance and he fucked up King Kong Ortiz's consecutive knockout streak, and he made King Kong Ortiz work for it and look bad. He didn't look as much of King Kong as he did in other fight, Dave Allen or whatever other fight, Tony Thompson. So that would be a moral victory for Jacobs. And then people will probably scratch their head, like, for Triple G, like, hey, you just had 23 stoppages in a row, and then you couldn't stop a guy who's been stopped before. And you know what I'm saying? It's not going to look good. But it also depends on how it goes down. You know what I'm saying? If he has Jacobs on the verge of being stopped and it just barely hangs on, maybe it doesn't. But if it's a super competitive fight and Triple G doesn't look good, plus doesn't get the stoppage, then people will probably judge it accordingly. Like, hey, you stopped 23 people in a row and you step up to the biggest name on your resume, and then you couldn't pull the trigger. You know what I'm saying? When you stepped up with someone elite. So it all depends on how it actually plays out. Next question, Jabbar Porter. Why do you think Bradley getting such a bad response for Spence when he has done nothing but fight everyone? And do you think he has a chance against Spence since he not in his prime? I like Bradley, I love Bradley, but I wouldn't pick him over Spence, especially at this point. Bradley, he's a wild card to me. He can scrap, he has heart, determination. Sometimes he doesn't make the best decisions. I think the last time I was really impressed with his performance from start to finish was Juan Manuel Marquez. That's the last time I remember off the top of my head. His other fights, he did kind of weird things. Ruslan Provodnikov. He's a known puncher from Russia, and you're fighting like you're He-Man or something, and he cracked the hell out of you, and you're like on Queer Street and fighting with the concussion and look like you're out on your feet. Pacquiao fights, there's almost all the Pacquiao fights he did good in spots, but then you didn't wear socks in the second fight. You did great for the first 5-6 rounds. Then all of a sudden you were gassed out because you tried to put too much mustard on each punch and fight a weird way against Pacquiao. You know what I mean? Jesse Vargas, you boxed Jesse Vargas for 11 rounds straight. Then you brawl Jesse Vargas for 11 rounds straight. And then in the final round, you start trying to stick and move and box and move, and he times you and you get rocked back. So it's been a minute since I've seen the complete Diego Chavez you fought again. I think Chavez might be southpaw, but you're fighting super wild and aggressive, clash of heads. You know what I'm saying? So he does good in spots in all these fights, but he just makes weird decisions. So I think Errol Spence Jr. right now has the momentum, so I would favor him. And I don't know why he's getting a bad response, but I think there was an interview he did, and I didn't see it. I just kind of heard about it, and someone said he said something like, "Why should I fight Errol Spence Jr.? What's in it for me? Who cares about fighting him?" or something. So I think that's another reason people don't like when fighters talk like that. Like, hey, why should I fight him? You know what I mean? Because he's like one step away from getting a title, and he's undefeated, making noise. So I don't know. Actually, the Brandon Rios fight, Bradley did good in that particular fight too. But I'm not making excuses. Brandon Rios looked like shit, like more so than normal. He looked out of shape and long layoff, and that's his fault. I mean, you can't blame Bradley for whatever he did in his offseason, but nonetheless, it didn't look like a fully capable Brandon Rios for whatever reason. And again, it's not Bradley's problem, but those are probably the last times I remember him looking all the way good. I want to see Bradley go back to the Devin Alexander days when he was really looking good. Casamayor. Next question, Jamarius Robinson. Ego. Demetrius Andrade is a mandatory for 2 or 3 belts. What does he have to do to get a shot at one of the champs? Keep grinding, my dude. Thank you. Boo Boo just has to be Boo Boo. Keep talking to the media, making these headlines. And more importantly, he gotta scrap. He has to fight. You guys see on the corner, there was him sparring with Troy King, my dude Kareem Mayfield. Make sure you guys check it out. That's an Ego exclusive. He just has to be active. That's what it boils down to. He has to be active. When guys like let's say Andre Ward. Andre Ward had inactivity. We all know that. Legal trouble, shoulder, surgery, injury, whatever, right? And at the end of the day, Dre fought. He kept fighting. So you can't call him inactive anymore. That's behind him. Ever since the Rock Nation deal's been pretty much on and popping. Fought Paul Smith, then he fought 3 times this year. With fighting Kovalev's mandatory, his first fight at light heavy. Then he fought Alexander Brand. Then he fought the light heavyweight champion, Sergey Kovalev. So it's out the window. You can't be like, oh, Dre's inactive. He fought 3 times. That's more than Pacquiao fought. It's more than a ton of people have fought this year. Keith Thurman. How many times has Keith Thurman fought this year? And he's young. You know what I mean? Keith Thurman fought Porter. I don't think he fought anyone else this year. So that's what he has to do. Demetrius Andrade has to just keep fighting until they can't deny you. And I'm not saying it's right, but we know how the game goes in politics. He has to keep fighting, doing the Willie Nelson type performances, and fighting multiple times so people can say, okay, he's really back. But you almost, based on your management and your promotional like strategy, or their promotional strategy, you being on the shelf and not making the Kukle fight this year, you could have had 2 in this year. But for whatever reason, teams didn't see eye to eye. But that's what your team's for. They got whatever the situation is, they got to nip it in the bud to the point where you can fight and get that second one in. But as long as he's inactive, it gives people some type, whether it's right or wrong, some type of scapegoat. And say, oh, who is he? No one even talking about him. So what you do is you hear what the criticism is about and you strip that away from them. Like, okay, I don't fight enough. Then get 2 or 3 in a year. Now what are you going to say? I'm still undefeated, fighting 2 to 3 times a year against good competition. What can they say? And that's what I think he needs to do. Just calling people out on YouTube ain't going to cut it. I mean, that's good, but you got to fight somebody and keep working as you call those people out. Next question, Frederick Cotton. Demetrius Andrade, boo-boo, is he for all the belts at 154? Don't even really know what the question is, but yeah, I definitely could see him being one of the final. If they did like a Super 6, I could picture him skill-wise being atop of the division, possibly beating everybody. I guess I think that's what you're asking. Next question, Avi. Why was Povetkin allowed to fight after a second failed drug test? Beats me. They're in Russia. Maybe they make their own rules. If he does, he does. You will lose. I must break you. Somebody got some explaining to do. Yeah, I don't know. Rabinski and World of Boxing, they just got poor Johan Duhaupas, and I guess he was the sacrificial lamb, late replacement, less than 24 hours. They gave him some A6 track shoes and said, here's some money. Fight this dude who just failed the drug test and got He-Man strength and shit. So I don't know. I don't know why. Like, you have to. That's above my pay grade. I don't know why he was able to fight. That's Russia. It's a whole another community. So maybe they don't care. Oh, obviously they don't care because they still continue to fight. And there's celebrities like, what's his name? Dennis. I forgot the dude's name, but he's in attendance and people are clapping for Povetkin like he didn't just fail the drug test. So obviously they about that life, thug life. Thug life, that's my comment, thug life. Next question is from Boxing Guru. I think Danny Jacobs' only shot is to catch him cold like he caught Peter Quillen. Do you think this is possible? This is boxing. Of course it's possible. Likely, that's a different story. I don't know if he can do it, but he has the power to do it. I really believe that. Certain guys have God-given power, and Jacobs is one of them. Like, he has 12 knockouts in a row. Golovkin has 23. I mean, clearly the guys have power. So I feel if you catch anybody right and you're a known hitter, power puncher, then you could debilitate him. I don't think Golovkin, he seems like he has a chin, seems tough, but I don't think anyone's above the law like that they could just eat any punch no matter what. So yeah, and I think it would be wise for him to try to hurt Golovkin early, rattle him, get him to the point where he's second guessing what punch is going to land. You know what I'm saying? That's someone else has a similar question, so I'll try to expand on it. Next question, Jack C 3D Ego. What do you personally think should happen to Povetkin, seeing that he has been caught yet again using banned substances? I mean, at this point, there should be a ban, like either permanently, indefinitely, or just a long, like 4 or 5 year ban. Like you got to get a regular job and shit. Because if you disrespect the sport, I mean, this is the thing. Povetkin, he looks like a big dude, whether he's on something or not. He looks like the part. He's a heavyweight. Out of all divisions, heavyweights, one punch can change everything. And it's sad seeing what happened to Muhammad Ali, where he got the shakes, and Meldrick Taylor, and people who can't talk and slurring. And you're pretty much inviting that by not only using your God-given strength, but having additives and PEDS and different things that are going to enhance that and give you an unfair advantage. So, I mean, people like Margarito and Povetkin, repeat offenders, there should be some kind of harsher, stricter guidelines, like 2-3 strikes, you're out. You know what I mean? Like you're messing with, like, you're almost playing God in a sense, because you're playing with someone's life at that point. You know what I'm saying? Bermane Stiverne took a lot of punishment versus Deontay Wilder. So if he fights against Povetkin, who is on something and gives him some kind of strategic advantage where he doesn't get tired, like he's on some Kevin Gates, I don't get tired. You know what I'm saying? That's not fair. That's not fair at all. If it's the 8th round and y'all wailing on each other and hitting each other with power shots, y'all should both be tired, unless one person's conditioning is just that superior naturally and he's not tired because of that. But you shouldn't have no extra additives. That's like, it's not fair. You know what I'm saying? Bottom line. The next question is from Humongous. I get it. Humongous. That's kind of funny. Pause. Question. Great vids, man. Great vids, man. I love them and keep them coming. Thank you. My question is, what are your thoughts on the fight between Guillermo Rigondeaux versus Vasyl Lomachenko? The casual fans who don't know much about boxing only like to watch boxing and not the science in boxing. People would choose someone who is more action-packed than another fighter on who they think would win. But anyway, studying their styles, attributes, abilities, may you please break down a fight and outcome of Guillermo Rigondeaux versus Vasyl Lomachenko? That's a good question, detailed question. First of all, me as a boxing fan of all styles, I would love to see the fight. Realistically, I'm not going to spend too much time because I don't think this fight would happen. I think it's a very big long shot, and it's because the guys are really headed in two directions. At one point, we were close, and they were close in weight, but since things have changed, it's kind of like Yuriorkis Gamboa versus Mikey Garcia. I wanted to see that fight so bad, and at one point, Gamboa got in the ring after Mikey Garcia's performance, and I was like, oh shit, it's going down. We're going to get it. But now, if you look at it, they seem to be going farther and farther apart. Gamboa is like to the point where I think he might be fighting at 130, and Mikey Garcia is fighting at 35, but he fought at 40 and maybe is at 30 for a while if he gets a championship, 35 at a while if he gets a championship versus Dejan's Latishinin, and then he'll probably end up moving up. So it's like they're going in opposite directions. Rigondeaux's tiny. I think Rigondeaux, honestly, I know people that know him and stuff. I think he can make 118 no problems. I mean, you look at it. He took a fight 2 weeks notice on the Rock Nation Canelo Cotto card, Golden Boy in Rock Nation, and he made weight. So I don't think he gets too big. Lomachenko's talking about maybe moving up to 35 and just moved up to 30. He's clearly bigger. So stylistically, if it happened in the 120s, I would favor Rigondeaux probably. I'm not sleeping on Lomachenko. If it happened at 130, then I would favor Lomachenko because his skill plus his size, I think, will carry him through. But Lomachenko, the reason I would favor Rigondeaux is he can get knocked down. First of all, I think, this is just my opinion, Lomachenko is a hell of a fighter. I love watching Lomachenko. I think his power is overstated. I don't think he's, even with the Nicholas Walters, you could be like, oh, no one's ever stopped Walters. I don't think that was the hardest Walters that ever been hit. Guys like Vic Darchinyan, Nonito Donaire, literally, I seen him hurt Nicholas Walters at the end of one of the rounds. Like he hit him with something nasty. Maybe, I don't know if it's an uppercut or what, I forgot. But when they fought, Walters' legs buckled. He was hurt from that. I never really seen that in the Lomachenko fight where he was just like, Walters looked like he was getting rocked all over the place. Maybe in the final round, the 7th round or whatever, maybe he was like hurt. But I think it was like the combination of being tired, probably being out of shape in his off season, coming back. And I'm not making an excuse. This is what I really feel. It was a combination of things, and he more so quit. Like, I have no shot in here. I'm not feeling it. I can't catch this dude. He's putting punches together, and he was just like, his spirit was broken more so than him being broken down physically. I've seen, like, Golovkin, he'll break you down physically. It's not necessarily like, oh, psychological warfare or like discourage, but like you look at the Postal versus Lucas Matisse. I don't think Postal hit the hardest that Matisse has ever felt. You know what I mean? Guys like Danny Garcia and Zab Judah probably cracked him way harder. John Molina. But Victor Postal, based on his style, he frustrated and broke Matisse's spirit. You know what I mean? There's a reason for that. And that's still an ass whooping. But it's different. So I think Lomachenko's power is overstated. I don't think he hits as hard as maybe HBO would try to make it out to be. So I don't know if he would. I don't see him stopping. He might be able to knock Rigondeaux down. I don't see him stopping Rigondeaux. And Rigondeaux is very calm even when he's hurt. I've seen him hurt or knocked down versus Magasa, versus Donaire, versus Roberto Marroquin, who had a good amateur career, stuff like that. And he always gets better after that. So, and the other thing is Lomachenko's movement and punches and bunches, I think it works better with the right-hander. So him fighting a fellow southpaw like Rigondeaux, he's not going to be able to get off some of those shots. Part of what makes it hard for a righty to fight a southpaw is the angle of the punches, the trajectory. Right-handers are usually used to fighting other right-handers, you know what I mean? But when you fight like a Pacquiao or Lomachenko, punches are coming from weird angles, and that's part of their arsenal that makes them dangerous. But that advantage is taken away when you're fighting another southpaw, because you're not in the same line of fire as a right-hander, because you both fight left-handed. So it's just a totally different fight. And Rigondeaux is a sharpshooter. I don't think the jumping around and the pivoting and the angles would be a problem for Rigondeaux. You know what I mean? Like I said, the better chance I give to Lomachenko is if the higher the weight goes, the better the chance Lomachenko has to beat Rigondeaux, to me. But Rigondeaux, other than that, he's a sharpshooter. He's efficient. Some people say, oh, he doesn't throw enough punches, but he doesn't have to. You look at the Charles Dickens or Jazza Dickens, whatever his name is, Christmas Carol, Christmas Story, whatever his name, Dickens, and he broke his jaw in 2 rounds, only throwing a handful of punches. So at that point, who cares? You know what I mean? I watched a fight with, what's his name, Jojo Diaz yesterday on the Bernard Hopkins Smith card. Jojo Diaz threw 1,000,000 punches. He was getting busy, letting his hands go combination, and he didn't come close to knocking out or breaking the other dude's jaw. So it's about working smarter, not harder. And if Rigondeaux has it in his arsenal to break your jaw, having only thrown 30 punches, then who cares if someone else throws 1,000 punches, but it ain't breaking their jaw? You know what I'm saying? So Rigondeaux, to me, he's just effective, and he's a sharpshooter. So that's why I would lean with, again, as the fight got bigger, like if it took place at 128, 129, 130, that's when I would start favoring Lomachenko more and more, just based on the size and the skill. He's skilled, but if it happens like 122 to 127, I'm still going with Rigondeaux. 128, 129, that's where it's like kind of pushing it, because I don't know. Next question, Coda Kid. Ego, what are your thoughts on Holly Holm getting a title shot for the new women's 145 division, knowing she's had 2 losses in a row, and this is a must-win fight for her? Holly Holm, she's a warrior. She's been knocked out before in boxing and stuff. So I don't really feel any type of way about it, particularly. The women's division, there's only a handful of names that are even ringing bells. So I'm not surprised that someone coming off of 2 losses, back-to-back losses, would be thrown into a title shot. You know what I mean? It's still a name. She beat Ronda Rousey. It's a must-win fight, like you said. But at the same time, there's only a handful of names. And I mean, I'm not even trying to clown. There's only a handful of like top-level talent in most female divisions. You know what I mean? You usually see like a Holly Holm or Ronda Rousey or Amanda Nunes and everybody else underneath them. And a lot of those people can't compete with the person who's number one. Like, when's the last time you've seen in women's fighting, like, you know what I mean? Look at Clarissa Shields. Who's her contemporary? Like, I haven't seen like an Ann Wolfe where you're like, oh, that's a fucking badass fight. Both fighters have a chance. You know what I mean? When's the last time in female combat in general, boxing or MMA, where you thought of a Danny Garcia, Keith Thurman, Sean Porter match where Ward Kovalev, you know what I mean? Usually it's a little bit different, where it's like it's the female fighter with a name and someone else who's ranked, but most people aren't giving them a shot. So I'm not surprised. Holly Holm has a name, and we'll see what she does with this opportunity. Maybe the weight cut will help her, because she looks pretty damn big. She's pretty tall and stuff like that. So maybe fighting at 145 will be easier to make, and you see a more fluid version of her. Next question, Squiddy Tentacles. Creepy name. How's it going, Ego? Keep up the good work, bro. Do you think that it's unfair for people to bring up Danny Jacobs' loss to Perog? It happened a long time ago, and he has come a long way since then. Yeah, but boxing is not fair, so it's kind of to be expected. People are always going to do that unless you're Manny Pacquiao. That's like the only person I could think of where people don't talk about early stoppage losses. Like, people act like when Pacquiao had his run, they act like Rustico Torre Campo never existed and the other dude that beat him. So it's kind of to be expected. People are going to say, oh, he has a shaky chin. It's really up to Team Jacobs and his team to prove people wrong and show his progress and beat Golovkin. Show what he's battled since then, battling cancer, and how far along he's matured since that particular moment. So although maybe unfair, it is what it is, and people are always going to do that. People are always going to, especially if Golovkin's a fan favorite or whatever, so people are going to look for anything to, like, aha, this guy's been stopped before type of attitude. So again, it's up to Jacobs to show how he's matured as a fighter since that opportunity, or since that moment. Next question is from Raging Reaper 89. What do you think Jacobs has to do to get the W over Golovkin, Triple G, the win, and vice versa? Also, do you think Triple G can draw Jacobs into his style of fight? Plus, to anyone who has the info, do we know the money split for this fight? Good questions. Now, I haven't heard the money split. Usually that doesn't come out until closer towards the fight. The commission, Nevada State Athletic Commission, would release it. They're required to document it. So I haven't heard anything about the money split. The fight just got announced like a day or two ago, so we don't know what they agreed on so far. Plus, there's pay-per-view monies involved, so they'll both probably get a split of that in addition to whatever they agreed on before the purse bid. So money split up in the air, don't know it right now. And can Triple G draw Jacobs into his style of fight? I mean, that's kind of what he's known for. He cuts off the ring, he puts on a lot of pressure, and he has power. So, and he's surgical, he's like methodical, like with accuracy, like placing his shots. So yeah, I definitely can see Triple G imposing his will and doing what he's done and to get the last 23 knockouts in a row. And your other question, what do you think Jacobs has to do to get the W over Triple G? Now, Jacobs needs to, one, use his height. I don't recall the last time Triple G fought someone that was much taller than him, like an inch or two, with power. He fought Ishida, but Ishida was a 54-pounder moving up to 160. And to me, even though he knocked out Kirkland, he don't have power like that at 54. So he was a sitting duck at 160 versus Golovkin. So Jacobs, there's two advantages that he has over many other Triple G opponents. He's a full-fledged middleweight who's tall and he has power, right? Those are good factors. So to me, he needs to establish a jab early. Use your height. The best way to say is this. I think I know how to beat Golovkin. Like, if I could create a fighter and stuff and have certain attributes, I think I know the way to beat him. But seeing and doing is two different things. You can see and pick apart, but it's when you're in there with him, you know what I mean, can you execute? So to me, Jacobs has to, it's very imperative. Guys like Anthony Joshua, Golovkin that know they have power, don't let them get into a rhythm. You've seen what happened with Joshua and Eric Molina. Eric Molina threw nothing. If Jacobs does that, like what Eric Molina does, and just kind of curves and tucks his tail to the power and succumbs, that's playing into Triple G's hands. Guys like Mike Tyson, Golovkin, Joshua, they're not having all these highlight reel knockouts for no reason, and I'm pretty sure it goes to their head in terms of they know they can hurt guys. They know they're one punch away from hurting people. You know what I'm saying? It's just, it is what it is. So that's what makes them like punchers dangerous, because they know they have the power to hurt anyone in their division for the most part, right? And if, like I said, if Jacobs is in line and he's just letting Triple G do whatever he wants and not swing back, you know what I mean? It's a risk because you don't want to get countered. Triple G's a pretty good counter puncher too. But that's the only way you'll win. Look at Kell Brook. The moment he was a welterweight, keep in mind, who moved up. The moment, first round, it was pretty competitive, but he got hurt in that round. So you have to give that round 1 to Triple G because he hurt Brook in there. And Brook got the adrenaline flowing when he got hurt, and his heart showed up, and he was just like, man, fuck that. I didn't train this hard to just lay down. I'm gonna make it a fight. So when Brook came back in that second round, he stood his ground and said, fuck it, sink or swim. And he had that type of attitude. And you notice he was bopping Triple G's head up with uppercuts, like bop, 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 and letting combinations go. And then Triple G started to get mad and frustrated to a point I've never seen Triple G like that, where he kind of throws caution to a wind. You could see him visibly look mad that he was getting tagged up with shots. And he was like kind of swinging for the fences to take Brook's head off. But luckily, Brook had a pretty swifter, lighter defense, and he was out of the way. Otherwise, I mean, he would have got knocked out. If some of those, if you watch those middle rounds when Triple G was getting frustrated, if some of those punches connected that were whizzing by, he would have knocked Brook out. But Brook had a good tight defense and was lighter and more athletic, I would say, than Triple G. Triple G's not that fast. That's the thing that people don't realize. But you don't always have to be the fastest when you have that type of power and you have accuracy and good timing and stuff like that, and know where to place your shots. But the best advice is Jacobs needs to get respect early. If Triple G knows he can hurt you and hasn't found out or figured out that you can hurt him back, then it's going to be more of the same. It'll be knockout 24 from what I see. The best way to defeat Triple G is to have smarts, power, good defense, athleticism, speed, just stuff like that, and back Triple G up. Get Triple G uncomfortable. He's always making people uncomfortable, right? Where he's putting all this pressure on them. They're, you know what I mean? And they know the end is near. So it's like they're almost like, watch Matthew Macklin. As soon as he started getting touched with harder shots, he's like he wanted to get knocked out. Same thing with Marco Antonio Rubio. It's like he wanted to get knocked out. You're letting this. Marco Antonio Rubio is super disappointing because he's been in there with some live bodies and he has a high knockout percentage. And Triple G tagged him on the ropes and he just like, it's like, man, hit me on the top of the head, end this for me. And he missed weight. You know what I'm saying? So it's like he was waiting to get taken out. If you do that, you're dead meat against Triple G. You're chopped liver, mincemeat. You can't do that. So Jacobs, that's what Jacobs has to do. For Triple G, his part, Triple G has to just be who he's been. And that's a guy who's methodical, puts together a lot of punches, weird angles. Like when he hit Marco Antonio Rubio, he did it. It's like this weird chopping trajectory. And Triple G kind of has to do the same thing with his power that I'm saying Danny Jacobs needs to do. He needs to make Danny Jacobs feel uncomfortable and feel like Dimitri Perog Part 2. This is Perog 2.0. I'm in over my head. What am I doing here? Live to fight another day. And just kind of cut off the ring like he's been doing. He needs to jab the taller man. And the power, this is an interesting fight. They both have power. And when you're dealing with that type of firepower, unfortunately, David Lemieux put up a duck. A goose egg, like he didn't do nothing. He had all that power in the world and he let Triple G get into a rhythm and never let off any of his bombs. David Lemieux has the power to knock out any middleweight, from what I've seen. He has real deal power. Like the way he was breaking Glenn Tapia up, if he looked like that versus Golovkin, like where he was actually letting his hands go, that would have been a different fight. It would have at least been a tougher fight for Golovkin. But he let Golovkin get into a rhythm and was just being defensive minded. And that's what Triple G does, because he places his shots, and you can't wait for your turn. You wait for your turn, turn's never going to come, because Triple G is going to break you the fuck up. And he's going to keep hitting you with shots. And getting punched, that depletes your energy levels. You know what I mean? Especially when it's by a hard puncher who's accurate. So, you know what I mean? You sitting up here waiting for your turn, like, oh, okay, can I punch you now? And he's already damaged your health bar. Your health bar starts off at 100. Neither one of you been punched. Then you're just shelling up and doing all this dumb shit. And then you're waiting for your turn. Meanwhile, he's teeing off on you with power shots, picking his shots. And your health bar goes down to 65%, then 45%, and then boom, oh shit, 0. Street Fighter, you're knocked out. Can't do that. You can't wait for your turn. Same thing with like guys like Lomachenko. Lomachenko doesn't have the most power in the world, but he has respectable power to at least, like, it's like somewhat snappy or whatever. You can't wait for him. Like Salido didn't give a fuck. That's how you have to fight those guys like that. You don't wait for Lomachenko to stop punting. Like Walter's waiting for the perfect shot. Like Lomachenko's gonna sit there and let Axeman throw an axe at him. You know what I'm saying? It's not gonna happen. You keep waiting and forever never comes. Next question, Michael Perez. Ego, thanks for all your hard work. Not a problem. Please answer me, laugh out loud. Okay, that's what I'm doing. Do you think a fight with Lemieux versus Eubanks is a good fight since they're both ranked next to each other? Sure, why not? Only thing is Eubanks is moving up to 168, and I don't know if he is going to move up, get a title if he wins, and then lose 8 pounds and then go back to 160. I don't know how his body is set up. Pause. I don't know that. So definitely a good fight. Guy with power and a guy athletic who has like break you down power, in shape. Good fight. But I don't know if it'll happen since he's going to super middleweight, Eubank Jr. Eubank. Next question, Spitfire JD. Is it just me, or does Jermall Charlo have just about the crispiest jab in the game? And between he and Andre, who beats Triple G easier? Shouts out to Killer Tainment from Columbus, Ohio. He has a good jab. I don't know about the best in the game. Like, I don't know. It's hard to quantify stuff like that because there's so many different divisions. But he certainly has a good jab, a good ass jab. I mean, bottom line is, when's the last time you've seen someone at a pro level, elite level, mandatory, going after a championship, get dropped with a jab? So if you drop J-Rock with a jab, it's obviously crispy. But there's other people with good jabs. Lennox Lewis had a great jab when he was fighting. Klitschko, good jab. Deontay Wilder. But yeah, I would definitely rate the Charlo's jab amongst the best in active boxing right now. I think. Like top 5, I would say. Him and Andre, who beats Triple G easier? I would go with Andrade. If either of them beat him, I would pick Andrade over. I like Jermall Charlo, but I think Triple G being Andre being a southpaw and Olympian, he just knows what it takes. Different style. I've seen more variety with his style. Like, I seen him use his legs. I seen him stand in front of a taller man like, what's his name, Willie Nelson. Stand his ground and bang. I've seen him box and bang. I've seen him box only. I've seen him get knocked down and then come back to dominate. I met him. He's like 6'1". I would say Andrade has a better chance of beating Triple G. Next question, SJ Fish 101. I believe it's a sad day for Triple G fanboys. What's Triple G gonna do with a real 160 pounder that's not scared of him before the first bell with real boxing skills? Hashtag and the new. Now, that's not really a question, but I mean, yeah, obviously that's going to crush the Triple G hype train if he gets knocked out by Danny Jacobs. Even though he's a quality fighter, it's just, that would be a bad look. You got to look at it. Another thing is just the political landscape. Danny Jacobs is an Al Heyman fighter, just like Dominique Wade when he fought Triple G. But the difference is, let's say Danny Jacobs, hypothetically, if he was able to pull the upset and knock off Triple G, then he goes over to HBO, takes one of their cash cows, knocks him out, then he goes back over to PBC with a handful of money. That would be a bad look. He's not an HBO fighter. You know what I'm saying? That's just like Adonis Stevenson going to HBO just for a Kovalev fight, knocking him out, and then going back to PBC. It puts kind of HBO in shambles. But it's still an uphill battle. It's a tough fight for him. I don't know who I'm to pick. I'll probably do a 7 reasons. I'll definitely do a first look. We'll see. You guys leave me your fight prediction. Next question comes from Motion Alex. Do you think Canelo continues ducking Triple G by now going over his 160 to possibly fight Chavez? Now, right now, I don't think you can say it's ducking because Triple G has his own business to take care of in March against Danny Jacobs. And they're talking about Julio Cesar Chavez for Cinco de Mayo. So, obviously, if he makes plans to fight Chavez Jr., it's not like he could fight Golovkin the first couple months of 2017 anyway. So, I don't think you could really say that's ducking. However, if, let's say, Triple G wins, knocks out Danny Jacobs, at that point, for like September, I don't see Oscar and Canelo and Team Canelo jumping up and down to fight Triple G if he comes off of an easy work knockout win over Danny Jacobs, hypothetically. If he knocks out Jacobs, I think De La Hoya would be like, oh, no. Hey, remember I said I'd give you 10 to 15 million? I lied. I'll give you 2. You know what I'm saying? I can see the negotiations changing, like, I don't know. Next question. Joel Sanchez. Hey, Ego, do you think that Golovkin's power will cause Jacobs trouble in early rounds? Yeah, I mean, Triple G's power has caused everybody trouble in the early rounds. So, I mean, I don't think he's going to just turn it off for the Jacobs fight. You look at it. Kell Brook got hurt in round 1. Matthew Macklin got stopped in 4 rounds, I think it was. I don't remember Gabe Rosado when he first, like when I seen him buckle. But, I mean, you look at it. Dominique Wade, I covered that fight live. He got hurt and dropped in the first round. Finished off in the second. So, yeah, Triple G's power's been hurting everybody early, so I don't think it's going to stop. But Jacobs is going to have to weather that storm if he wants to win. Next question is Matias Lescano. Your opinion on Eubank Jr. going for a title at super middleweight. Now, I made a quick video. It was just like a highlight of Eubank training, Eubank Jr. And, I mean, it's cool, but it doesn't help this case about the Golovkin fight, about the people who are like kind of defending Eubank, saying he really wanted the fight. It kind of supports that he didn't want the Golovkin fight. Plus, there was action at 160, good fights at 160. And I don't even really know the Reynolds guy he's fighting, Quinlan. I don't really know anything about him. IBO titleist. So, I mean, it's not the most meaningful. If he goes up there and gets a title, that doesn't stipulate he can beat James DeGale, Badou Jack winner, or even a George Groves or somebody. So, I have to see how he looks at 168, and then that's going to determine how excited I am. But as far as the opponent selection, him moving up, it doesn't really do anything for me unless he makes some noise up there and gets the title, and then maybe fights like a George Groves or better competition, Gilberto Ramirez, and, you know what I mean, start gunning for the top guys if he's going to stay up there. Next question is from Greg Sanders. What do you think the chances of Ward Kovalev 2 happening? I think there's a strong chance it happens. I would say 75%. Obviously, I guess apparently Ward said he may retire, and Kathy Duva's on her little crusade to like protest that her fighter was robbed and stuff. So anytime you have stuff like that, it's going to make the negotiations more complex and complicated, i.e. Mayweather-Pacquiao. I'm not saying it's going to be that bad, but Ward has already been on record saying like they're not the A side no more. I'm the champion, and I think he feels slighted that the way they're taking the loss, as if he just robbed him. He's not in charge of the scorecard. So all those things are going to complicate matters and negotiations, even though there's a rematch clause. especially if he's threatening to retire or whatever the case is. But I do think the fight will happen. I don't know if it'll happen next. I don't know if it'll happen, but I think at some point the fight will happen. I just don't know under what conditions and terms it'll happen, but I do think it'll happen again. Next question is Cess the MC. Ego, what you think about Kovalev versus Smith Jr. or Stevenson versus Smith Jr.? Which would you rather see? Who would you favor? Based on what I've seen, this is not a knock on Smith Jr. He did good work, but it was a 51-year-old Bernard Hopkins. I did see some mistakes he was making, inexperienced type of stuff. I think he was a construction worker, so he hasn't necessarily probably been able to dedicate his full life to boxing. Maybe now he can, because he just beat a legend in Bernard Hopkins. So maybe he'll be able to work on boxing full time. I would pick Kovalev and Adonis to beat Smith Jr. at this point, but he can make it interesting. He looks pretty big for light heavyweight, and clearly he has dynamite. He has some power. I mean, he stopped Bernard Hopkins. No one's ever done that. Whether you dispute it, he wasn't pushed. You know what I mean? People are like, oh, he pushed him out, and his fist pushed him out. You know what I mean? If Bernard Hopkins didn't have any balance or whatever, that's not really, it was a legal blow, so you can't knock Smith Jr. So he clearly has power from far. Look, he's a big dude. You know what I'm saying? He trains at Virgil Hunter's gym. I've seen him on more than one occasion. Fafar is pretty big. Adonis couldn't stop him, and Smith Jr. did it. But the reason, experience is a huge thing to me. You know what I mean? And looking at Kovalev, Adonis, they're champions with title defenses. And Smith Jr. is someone who's kind of new on the scene. Even though he beat Bernard Hopkins, he literally beat Hopkins off a 2-year layoff. And I'm not taking away from, these are facts. You can go to BoxRec and find that. And Hopkins, I told you, have been getting destroyed in that 12th round and pretty much dominated by Kovalev. So Hopkins, we didn't know how he was going to look. Long layoff, a bad loss in his last fight, age 51. Now, the thing is, it's Hopkins, so, you know what I mean, on any given night, he could pull that rabbit out of the hat. He just wasn't able to do it. But the point being, you look at Adonis and you look at Kovalev versus Hopkins, they've been stopping guys. They've been defending their titles impressively. Things like that. Stevenson versus Sakio Bika, Thomas Williams Jr., Kovalev and Muhammadi, or knocking down Andre Ward, or knocking down Chilemba. You know what I mean? They've been looking good, and they're not 51 years old. It's a different fight. Plus, they both have more power than B-Hop at this current age and stuff like that. So, and they're experienced. They're experienced champions. Title defenses matter. So I wouldn't rush. If I was Smith Jr.'s team, I wouldn't rush him. I think a good fight for him, like a real good fight with him, would be Thomas Williams, top dog, Thomas Williams Jr. I think that's a good, I think he has some version of a title. That would be a good, like a title defense. He's already taken Fonfara and B-Hop. Give yourself a rest. And I'm not saying Thomas Williams, shout out to Thomas Williams. I've interviewed him and stuff. I'm not saying he's not a good fighter, but you can't put him in the Andre Ward category. He just got stopped his last fight. You know what I mean? So you can't put him in the elite Andre Ward caliber, Kovalev caliber, Adonis Stevenson caliber. You can't put him in the top 3. So that's what I mean. A guy who's no pushover, who has power, who's going to make you work. That seems like a rightful fight. Maybe even a Sullivan Barrera. But again, I think he should wait before he gets those better BFs and guys like Barrera who have power and good amateur backgrounds and stuff. I think he should build upon this momentum. You just knocked Hopkins into 2017. Ride that wave and build your pedigree, your confidence with just like a defense against, like I said, like a Thomas Williams, maybe even Edwin Rodriguez. These guys all have power. You know what I'm saying? See how he fares. Even though Rodriguez, I don't think he's come back since the Thomas Williams loss, but I was at that fight, and Williams was hurt by Rodriguez too. So I would go with something like that instead of just jumping at one of the major champions. But I would watch it either way. All these guys have power, so it is what it is. I'm just saying, if I was advising Smith Jr., I think he's due for another guy who's not top 3 in his next fight. He just fought Fonfara as the underdog. and he just fought B-Hop. That's how you build a fighter. It's not about cherry picking or anything, but you want to make sure your fighter is there for the long haul. So you rush him and put him in too many dangerous fights or tough fights back to back to back to back, then you'll end up ruining your fighter. You know what I mean? Look at guys like Brandon Rios, Mike Alvarado, who have taken tough fight after tough fight after tough fight, not giving their body a chance to relax. It doesn't do anything for your confidence. It kind of ruins you. Alvarado, he was in a tough fight with Rios, got stopped. He was in a tough fight before that with Bradis Prescott, nearly got stopped, but then he stopped him. Then he had a title defense at Holm, got stopped in front of his crowd versus Ruslan Provodnikov. You know what I mean? He fought Juan Manuel Marquez. He fought Brandon Rios and got stopped again. It's just, that's wear and tear on your body. And I think Smith Jr., he has a canvas you can build from. You just got to build him the right way because, again, boxing is not his full-time gig. I don't know about his amateur background, but he clearly has the frame. He has the mindset. He didn't play into Bernard Hopkins games or anything like that. He clearly has power. Build from that. But I don't think I wouldn't, like I said, put him in there with Kovalev. But if he feels he's ready for Kovalev and Adonis, fuck it. Let's watch it. I'm just telling you what I would do. Next question, James Lopez. Does Daniel Jacobs have the power to hurt Triple G? Absolutely. I think Triple G and Jacobs have the power to hurt each other. See, this is the thing. I don't believe in these like mortals. I've seen some of the toughest fighters hurt. I've seen Julio Cesar Chavez hurt. I can tell you specific fights. I've seen Roy Jones hurt. I've seen Mike Tyson. I've seen Evander Holyfield. Watch Holyfield versus James Toney, right? And James Toney was a guy who moved up in weight and stuff like that. And Holyfield's been in there with Lennox Lewis, Tyson, and James Toney was tearing Holyfield out the frame, right? So Floyd Mayweather, I've seen him hurt multiple times. DeMarcus Corley, I've seen him hurt by Zab Judah, obviously Shane Mosley. Pacquiao clipped him. You know what I'm saying? So I don't believe there's supermen in boxing where they're just invincible and nothing can hurt them. Triple G looks like he has a solid chin, but he can't be hurt, right? I think Kell Brook hurt him despite whatever he said post-fight, because if someone's not hurting you, then you're not supposed to react, and your head's bobbing up and how you react and got almost desperate and wily with your punches and started getting sloppy. That's not really the reaction from somebody who's tickling you or not hurting you. Like, it's safe to say, okay, Willie Monroe probably didn't hurt Triple G. So when he was like, nah, I mean, his punches, they're like tick, 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 tick. Okay, that's fine. But I think Kell Brook, like I said, I'm not saying he was on Queer Street, but I think he was feeling the punches more than he let on. So Jacobs, clearly, you've seen what he did to Peter Quillen. Sergio Mora is a crafty guy. I interviewed Shane Mosley. Shout out to my dude, Sugar Shane. And I said, who had the best movement? Because we were talking about Porter Thurman. He was working with Porter, sparring with them. So we got to go to the Porter gym and watch Porter and Mosley sparring. Good ass sparring. You know what I mean? That could have been on TV. And it was rugged, good sparring. And I was saying, hey, most people think Keith Thurman's going to be moving a bit. You being an experienced guy, who's the best mover you've been in the ring with, and what should Sean Porter do to kind of negate the Thurman movement? And I said, was it Floyd? He's like, actually, Floyd didn't even, the interview's on my page still. He said, Floyd didn't even really move much with me. He was fighting flat-footed. He said he had good upper body movement, but he wasn't really moving, like contrary to many people's belief who say Floyd runs, all he does is run, he's a runner and all that. Even the guy who fought him is not even saying that. He's saying he stood his ground and he didn't even move that much. He said Sergio Mora. He said, believe it or not, Sergio Mora. He's like, I was like, wow, this guy's feet are fucking fast. And he couldn't believe how fast he was. So to see Daniel Jacobs stop him twice, the first one you can, okay, it was a fluke or whatever, but the second one wasn't no damn fluke. And he was trapping him. Sergio Mora, he was like, he said post-fight, he's like, man, it wasn't my night. This guy hits hard. Mora's crafty. He knows how to survive in there. You know what I mean? He has a tricky style, and he's like a kind of Carlos Molina at 154-ish type of person where it's just real hard to look good against. You look at James Kirkland, Carlos Molina, Edislandi Lara, Carlos Molina. It's hard to look good against a guy like that. And that's like Sergio Mora, and Jacobs got it done. So, yeah, Jacobs clearly has the power to hurt Triple G, vice versa. And do you think Danny Jacobs is a better boxer than Triple G? Who you got? Now, I'm going to say my prediction like I always do for my own segment, 7 reasons. So I'm not going to answer that portion. And is he a better boxer? Yeah, I would say fundamentally he's a better boxer, but that doesn't mean he's going to win, because Broner is a better fundamental boxer than Maidana, and that didn't win him the fight versus Maidana. So yeah, I do think he is better in terms of like certain things, but Triple G does subtle things very good. Like his jab was good versus David Lemieux. I don't know how to be against another power puncher who's taller than him, but against Lemieux it was good. Counter punching is good. Cutting off the ring is really good. He's really light on his feet. Good balance. Good torque on his punches. That's how he's hurting guys. Accurate. So yeah, I mean, they're both good boxers, but maybe fundamentally and athletically, Danny Jacobs edges him. But that's not necessarily going to just be all it takes to win the fight. Next question is from Luke Sakwa. If Triple G beats Danny, which I think he will, wouldn't it give Oscar even more reason to have Canelo hold off even longer? Absolutely. Because, I mean, Jacobs is a formidable opponent. He's been stopped, but he's rebuilt his career. I think he has like 12 knockouts in a row. He's taller than Triple G. He called out Triple G and said he wants to fight, said he's ready. And arguably, if it's not Triple G that beats Danny Jacobs, Jacobs has a shot to beat really anyone in the division. He already beat Peter Quillin. I mean, who else in the division? Would you pick David Lemieux over Danny Jacobs? Curtis Stevens? You know what I'm saying? I would probably favor Danny Jacobs against any of those guys. Billy Joe Saunders, I'd probably favor Danny Jacobs versus anyone. Triple G is the only person that arguably will definitely be the favorite over him. You know what I mean? So that's a testament to Triple G's skills. But yeah, I mean, why would Canelo moving up, if you see Triple G stretch an actual middleweight with power who knocked out Peter Quillin in 1 round, and if Triple G makes it look easy, yeah, that's definitely not going to give Golden Boy and Oscar confidence to make that fight with Canelo, because he's the one moving up. Jacobs is already at 116. Next question, Calvin Phelps. Ego. Honestly, I believe Danny Jacobs is going to win the fight. So if he does, do you think De La Hoya will set up negotiations for Jacobs versus Canelo fight? I don't think he'll be in a rush to do that either. That's kind of similar to the last question, but yeah, I mean, either guy who, I don't think a definitive, emphatic win from Jacobs over Triple G or Triple G over Jacobs is not going to give Golden Boy any confidence to put Canelo in there with them. That's the savior of Golden Boy. He's a cash cow, and it's a dangerous ass fight, because if Jacobs knocks out Triple G, no one else has been able to do that. So why would he want to put Canelo in with the 6-footer with that type of power, with Peter Quillin as a body on his resume, Sergio Mora, and now Triple G? Same thing with Triple G. If Triple G knocks out Jacobs, that'll be his 24th consecutive knockout against a full-fledged middleweight. So why would you want to put your new middleweight in there with that man? You know what I mean? So yeah, I think it puts Canelo in a dangerous spot to move up at that time. And I don't know if Golden Boy would do that, but that's just my thoughts. Next question, Ivan Drago. Ego, with 2016 nearly over, who would you pick as your fighter of the year, fight of the year, and biggest upset of the year? Oof. That's a little bit hard just because these videos are freestyle. So it's hard to remember 12 calendar months in a freestyle video. So I might forget some. So I'm just gonna list out a couple off the top of my head. Fighter of the year, I would probably say Terrence Crawford. I think because he fought 3 times, and one of them he fought the guy who was considered a 50-50 fight in his division against Victor Postal, and that was a champion, and he knocked him down twice and dominated. It didn't even look like a competitive fight. I was at that fight, and it didn't really look like it was. Gamboa fight was harder, put it that way. To me, watching Crawford Gamboa, he struggled a lot more with Gamboa than he did with an actual champion who was coming off of a Lucas Matisse, first man to stop Lucas Matisse win. So you got to put Crawford up there as fighter of the year for me. He also fought Hank Lundy, Victor Postal didn't stop him. Hank Lundy's pretty game. And Crawford stopped him earlier and probably easier than a lot of people. You know what I mean? And then I was at Crawford's last fight against John Molina. Same thing. Lucas Matisse got knocked down twice by John Molina. Broner beat John Molina pretty emphatically. But John Molina's tough. He was coming off the Ruslan Provodnikov win. And then Crawford went out there and dogged him. I think, I'm not going to say Broner had oh shit moments, but there were more moments of he got caught a couple more times and stuff. But with Crawford, it was just like jab, jab, power shots. He was just doing whatever he wanted. And you know what I mean? And to me, John Molina, I got to do the research, but he was confident. I talked to John, that's my dude. And he was coming off the Ruslan Provodnikov win. You know what I mean? Missed weight too, so he was heavy. And Crawford made it look like easy work. So I'll probably put Crawford as my fighter of the year. Andre Ward comes to mind too. Just because he stepped up and took care of Kovalev's mandatory first fight at the full light heavy, Sullivan Barrera, who later knocked out a guy everyone was talking about, Vyacheslav Sabransky and all this, you know what I mean? And it lends new credence to how good Ward is, because Ward, I was at that fight too. He didn't really struggle. That was his first fight. And the Kovalev fight was much harder. And Sullivan Barrera got knocked down and pretty much dominated. You know what I mean? There was maybe some spots, a little bit of ring rust, but Ward looked pretty good in there. And then he beat Alexander Brand. You know what I mean? That was like a wild card, 168 pounder who moved up. And then he took on Kovalev and beat him. And it came back as a champion because he got knocked down. And you guys can argue, oh, he has the belts. Bottom line, he has the belts. So that's probably who I would pick. Both guys fought 3 times a year. Both guys fought champions in their divisions. That's probably who I would pick for fight of the year. It'd be Crawford or Andre Ward. I think they had really good years. Fight of the year, so many good ones. Porter Thurman, Leo Santa Cruz, Carl Frampton, Richard Comey versus Robert Easter. I really enjoyed that fight. Those are the ones that come to mind. And Ward Kovalev, I really liked. I was at that live and I liked that a lot. Those are my fights of the year that I can think of off the top of my head. Just good action, competitive, stuff like that. A skill level. You know what I mean? I can't put Salido, Vargas. I'm not saying they don't have no skill, but it's like no one had a game plan. Nobody took over and stretched. It was just like from rounds 1 to 12, it was all of the same. And that just bled in. I don't like to see that. I like to see more of a strategy. Like even like Kovalev Ward, for example. There was a clear-cut strategy. Kovalev had the first half pretty soundly, got the knockdown, and then Ward had the second half pretty soundly, where he made adjustment. That's what I like to see. Richard Comey and Robert Easter, they traded knockdowns, you know what I mean? Easter got knocked down first, his glove touch. Then Easter had a hell of a final round, and he knocked down Comey. Comey showed a hell of a chin and stayed in the fight. So, you know what I mean? Fights like that, there's a high level of skill. It's like a high-speed chess match with skill, and a great contrast to styles. Porter Thurman, same exact way. Nobody wanted to give the other person an inch. I thought there's like, I don't know the round off the top of my head, but Thurman Porter, let's say round 3 or 4, Porter was winning like almost all of the round to me. And then he had Thurman on the ropes. Thurman caught him with a nasty ass left hook. And then I gave the round to Thurman because it really woke Sean Porter up, and he was visibly buckled and hurt to me. You know what I mean? So, and then Sean Porter, he didn't let that discourage. He's never backed down. Showed you how tough he was. He never, I know he was getting hurt by some of them shots, and it didn't matter. He's still crazy ass willpower. So those are the fights that stick out to me. High level of skill, high speed chess match, strategy, trying to execute some kind of game plan, jockeying for position. It's like a tug of war. That's what I like. You know what I mean? Like Salido Vargas was cool for non-stop sustained action and throwing punches, but nobody was pulling away. You know what I mean? That's why at the end people were like, for the wrong reasons, like they didn't know who won. You know what I mean? Versus Kovalev Ward and Porter Thurman, and maybe even Leo Santa Cruz, Carl Frampton. it was more of what you liked, because they were both doing equally very good work throughout. You know what I'm saying? Richard Comey and Easter Jr. They were both doing great work, so it became hard to score. The Salido Vargas fight wasn't really as hard to score because they were both doing about the same. You know what I mean? It could have been a draw. Nobody was really showing that championship grit to like, oh, I'm gonna pull out these championship rounds, or the second half is mine. You know what I'm saying? I didn't really see that. That's just my opinion. Upset of the year. Ooh. I can't even think of any upsets. I'm drawing a blank. I rambled on about this other fighter and fight of the year. Who got upset this year? Who got upset? Shit, Ward Kovalev. Some of y'all motherfuckers was upset at the decision, so maybe that. A lot of people thought Ward would get knocked out. That may be one of them. I'm trying to think of who got upset, like where Povetkin failing his drug test. That was the upset of the year twice. I'm really drawing a blank. You guys have to help me out in the comment section so I can move on. I can't think of any other like real upset. I mean, there were some small fights, like the African dude knocked out that Troy Yavinsky or whatever his name, that was supposed to be in line to fight Terrence Crawford. Stuff like that. Maybe Leo Santa Cruz losing to Carl Frampton. But I don't really consider that an upset because I picked Frampton. You know what I mean? Based on his skill. So I can't think of any like clear-cut upset. But maybe you guys can help me in the comment section on that one. Also, 2017 looking good in terms of boxing. Which fights you looking forward to the most? Including ones that still not yet official. Brooke Spence. That's clearly one if that happens. Keep up the great work. Hashtag best boxing channel. Thank you. There's a ton. I mean, I'm a boxing head, so I want to see Joshua Klitschko, see how the youth does versus the experience. I want to see Danny Garcia, Keith Thurman. I mean, I don't even know where it's going to be, but I'm trying to look and hope they announce it so I can look in the prices. I'm trying to go to that. Leo Santa Cruz, Carl Frampton 2. That's a good card. Mikey Garcia, Dejans Latishinin. There's a ton. I want to see Broner Granados a lot. Ton of fights that I want to see. And then maybe fights that could be made. Like, let's say Joshua beats Klitschko, Joshua Wilder, Joshua King Kong. Anything like that. So there's a ton of fights that I want to see. Next question is from Paulie G17. Sup, Ego? As always, love the channel. Thank you. Keep them coming. Okay, here's my question. Jacobs is without a doubt Triple G's toughest test to date. I agree, on paper he's clearly that. But if Triple G wins, do you expect or think there will be a greater chance we get to see Canelo fight made by the end of 2017? Thanks, Ego. Shout out to Troy, Garlic Butter King. Pause. Hope you have a great Christmas from the UK. That's funny, that garlic butter. Merry Christmas to everybody who celebrates. I really think if Triple G does what he's been doing in his last 23 fights and just like bombs out Jacobs, I think the chances of the Canelo fight happening by the end of 2017 becomes slimmer and slimmer. That's my opinion. But if he struggles a bit, or it's perceived he struggles, like the Kell Brook fight, if Jacobs buckled him or anything like that, then there's a chance that'll happen if there's vulnerability shown. And it's sad, but that's how I honestly feel. And next question, Drace Paulo. How far up in weight do you think Lomachenko can go? Can you see Ward and Kovalev going up to cruiserweight and being successful? It's tough, Ward and Kovalev. I mean, it's a chance, but them weight classes, once you get past light heavyweight, it's a pretty big jump. You know what I mean? When I seen Steve Cunningham, he went from cruiserweight to heavyweight. He looked like a midget next to Tyson Fury. He didn't look that big. You know what I mean? Guys like Glaskov, they don't look, they're heavyweights, but they didn't even look as, like, put Glaskov next to Tyson Fury, Deontay Wilder, Anthony Joshua, Klitschko. These guys are going to look too small. So once you get right up in those ranges, it's tricky. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sure if you put Marco Huck and, you know what I mean, the mass of guys like that and the Golovkin and stuff like that next to Kovalev's and next to Wards, they're not going to look that big. So it's tough to tell if they can go up quite there. And not, I mean, anyone can go up, but go up there and be successful and like beat a champion. I really don't know that. As far as Lomachenko, I think 35 might be his limit. You know what I mean? Like beating like Dejan's Latistinin, fighting like Mikey Garcia. That sounds like realistic, but if he starts going up too much, like I can't really picture him beating Terrence Crawford at 140. That's just me, because he'll be giving up. Terrence Crawford rehydrates, let's say 153 to 161, somewhere around there. You know what I mean? He's going to be giving up height. He's going to be giving up rehydration on the night of fight. Longer arms, most likely. Guys like Crawford and Robert Easter. You know what I mean? It's going to be hard. And to me, when it gets to a certain point where you have to be highly, highly, highly skilled to deal with all of these things against you. You know what I mean? Like the Floyds and the Pacquiaos. Those guys are anomalies and able to... I talked to Sugar Ray Leonard back in the day, I think last year, and he said those guys are anomalies. You know what I mean? Certain people just have certain gifts. And Lomachenko is very gifted, but I think his style, how he fights and stuff like that, it's just... I think it's 135 might be his cap out point. You know what I mean? I don't think he's the most powerful guy at 130 in terms of pure brute force. So with his style, like throwing punches and bunches, how is he going to fight above 140? Like, put it this way. Can you picture Lomachenko fighting Marcos Maidana at 147? Now, technique-wise, we know that Lomachenko has more fundamentals than a Marcos Maidana. But can you picture him doing what Floyd did and lasting 24 rounds with Marcos Maidana without ever getting knocked down or knocked out or anything? You know what I mean? Giving up all that weight. Maidana's swinging for the fences with clear-cut power. And, you know what I'm saying? I can't picture him at like welterweight or anything that high. It doesn't seem realistic to me. 140 even seems a bit of a stretch. So to me, I think Lomachenko probably will land somewhere in the 130, 135. Anything above that starts to seem more and more dangerous. Like even fights like Robert Easter, it's like Lomachenko, and I rate Lomachenko. He's a great fighter, but it's just, I don't know. Those are all tough fights. Mikey Garcia, Robert Easter, because those guys probably can take a punch better. They're longer arms, bigger, rehydrate more. You know what I'm saying? So that's my personal take. And that is not shitting on the man. I like Lomachenko. And the final question, Ali Diego 619. This is some bullshit. Why the fuck would they let Alexander Povetkin fight after failing a second drug test? This man should be banned from boxing for life, in my opinion. Your thoughts? And I kind of had that same question and I addressed it. I agree. I mean, it's just, how many times can we give you the benefit of the doubt and pardons? And I mean, just the stuff that his promoter is doing and whatnot makes it sound like he's guilty. The promoter says something like he's not confident in the test. I mean, why is he only the one failing? You know what I'm saying? Wilder is not failed. Like even like, let's say Luis King Kong Ortiz, he failed a drug test and got banned and suspended and all that. But it wasn't 2 times in a year. He hasn't failed since then. You know what I'm saying? So why is this one man constantly failing? His A and B sample failed in the first time for Meldonian. Now he's failing for something different. That's kind of weird. You know what I mean? You're failing. It sounds like you're up to something. Like, I'd understand, let's say in the second test he failed for meldonium. That would make more sense than him failing for a completely different drug. You guys got to really put that in your pipe and smoke it and put that in perspective. You failed for 2 separate drugs. Again, if he failed in the Wilder fight and then Bermain Stavern fight for meldonium, maybe you could say, oh, okay, he's not dirty, it's just trace elements. But why would you fail for 2 different illegal banned substances? That doesn't even make sense. That's like me going out for a job interview at Costco and I failed, like, hey, we can't hire you. Hey, why? You have cocaine in your system. Oh, okay. And then I go over to Sam's Club and apply, and I get to the 3rd stage and they're like, we want to hire you on. We just got to do a drug test. And I do a drug test. Oh, hey, we can't hire you. Why? Oh, you got heroin in your system. You know what I mean? Why would I fail for 2 different things? You know what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't make sense that you would be failing for Ostarine and meldonium and Flintstone vitamins. And it You got to make it make sense, and that don't make sense to me. Why you're failing for two totally different substances? Like, let's say I ate some contaminated meat, clenbuterol, and you keep failing for the same thing. Okay, maybe you just keep eating the same meat. Pause. But you're failing for meldonium, banned, ostarine, banned, and you didn't want to do drug tests earlier before. You wanted your own testing agency, not VADA. People complain about VADA. VADA doesn't catch nobody. Shit. They on Alexander Povetkin's ass. So, I mean, they catching somebody. So, yeah, I mean, you should get banned. You're playing with people's lives at that point. You know what I'm saying? Like, you clearly don't give a fuck. You're already, I'm pretty sure Povetkin's probably cracking without anything in his system. He probably has natural power. I mean, he has an Olympic, I think, gold medal. So he's probably a powerful dude as is. He's probably 200 plus pounds as is with nothing. You know what I'm saying? Stop trying to jockey for position and get a one up on somebody and an edge up and level up and all this extra shit. You know what I mean? Fight on an even playing field. If your skills carry you to the next level and you knock out Bermane Stiverne, Wilder, based on your own natural innate ability, then you get all the credit in the world. But we can't accept cheaters, because if that's the case, if we turn a blind eye to it, sweep it under the rug, then it's going to be anarchy. Then everyone's going to do it. Like, oh, fuck it, Povetkin getting away with it, I'm on that juice now. You know what I'm saying? And everyone's going to be trying to do it. So yeah, I mean, repeat offenders like that, it's just, if you had kids and you lived next to a school where your kid goes and there's a sex offender, a repeat 2-time sex offender, you want him in your neighborhood? Now, I know that's a little bit different because it's like a sex offender, but it's still, why would you, if this motherfucker has a history of doing this and molesting kids and different charges, I mean, whether he's rehabilitated or not, how many chances are you going to give him or want to give him? That's just my opinion. Let me know what you guys think. Sorry about that Megan's Law comparison, but I just try to put in perspective for y'all. Let me know how y'all think I did this week. Try to get to a lot of questions. If I didn't get to you this week, try again next week. Make sure you share the video, like the video. As always, hate, comment, and subscribe. Till next video is Ego signing off.